Another good thing to note is the rule of thirds. I don't know how many of you have heard of that before, but what it is it's two horizontal and two vertical lines that you kind of imagine in your picture. And according to digitalphotography.com, your subject is supposed to be placed in either the intersections or along the lines. So this means, like for this picture, it's my back and it's placed inside of the, kind of in the intersections and also in the boxes. So it's a little bit hard to understand with the concept, but if you imagine these lines, just try to focus in one box. That's how I started, and you start to get more comfortable with it after that. As for taking close-up pictures, it's important to maximize your picture as much as possible by not having a lot of extra space. Like the only thing you want in the picture is the subject itself. This is one that I took of my boyfriend getting a tattoo. And it's a good example of filling the viewfinder, because if I wouldn't have filled it, you wouldn't have even been able to see that drop of ink on the needle right there. And I think that's what makes it a interesting picture. So once you have all those elements ready, the next important thing to do is to focus. When you focus, you want to make sure that you're focused on the subject itself and you ignore the background, because you want the subject to be what your eye is drawn to when you see the actual picture. So finally, after your picture is taken, there's some editing tricks that you can do. Sometimes it's hard to keep all those rules in mind when you're actually taking a picture. So what you can do is you can crop it to kind of go for the rule of thirds or the angle thing, or you can also put different pictures together to form a story. This is one of the steps of making sushi. So none of the pictures are very good on their own, but when you put them together and it kind of tells the story, it makes it appear to be a better picture. Finally, the final editing trick that you can do is the depth of field. I don't know how many of you know, but DSLR cameras create kind of depth of field that you can't get with any other camera, but you can fake it if you have any cheap Photoshop. This is one of two burgers. And what I did was I made everything except for this burger blurry, just with the blur tool, and it creates the illusion that it was taken with a good camera when actually it was just taken with a cell phone camera. So I hope you all can remember some of those tips. Just to go over my last tips again, first you want to get to know your camera by reading the manual and also playing with all the functions. You want to set up your subject so that it's in the rule of thirds, or it's as big on the viewfinder as possible. You want to minimize the background noise or the blur clutter. You want to frame your shot. And finally, you want to focus on your subject. And if all of those fail, you can always edit the picture afterwards. I hope all of you remember at least one or two of these tips and start making good use of your cameras. Thank you.
Question.
How many megabits of a camera would consider as a good quality for picture?
Well, like I said, all you really need is like a 4 megapixel camera, and that's what most cell phones are. And that can print you a picture about this big. And not many people print pictures, but it looks good on a computer, which is what most people use.
I have 2 questions.
Okay.
One, where'd you get that little stand at?
I found it at Target. It was $20, but if you're using it with a phone, you should also get this adapter, which kind of sticks it in there because it's made for real cameras.
Oh, okay. Okay, and the second question is, what was your first source? Because I wasn't able to get it down fast enough.
It was, I think it was,
Design 15.
yeah, Design 215, I think.
Okay.
Yep.
You said that you took the picture yourself of you and your boyfriend.
Mhm.
Is it because your cell phone has a timer on taking the picture, or?
No, my cell phone doesn't have a timer. I used an app that has a timer,
Oh.
which works. But I think most cell phones actually have a timer, just not mine.
Give me your app there.
Okay.